Call this meeting to order.
We have to replace the pool about that.
Travis, can you give the invocation, please?
Yeah, let's stand, please. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time as we come together as a community to do work in your honor, Father. We ask that you bless us and keep us focused on doing the right thing for the people, by the people. Father, we just ask that you be with those who are not able to come tonight, that are sick in the communities, Lord, that need you. We thank you for your safety and the blessings you provide to us daily. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. At this time, I'd like to ask Preston Renfro from Troop 33. Come up. Preston, turn around and face the audience and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Preston. All right. We're going to be approving the agenda. Any changes anybody would like to make to the consent agenda?
Mayor, I think there needs to be some, move to be some language change to item number 6 in the consent agenda. I think it is.
What's on the business agenda right now?
The North Carolina Eastern Municipal Power Agency Board appointments. No, not that one.
It's in the business. It's on the business.
You already
Pardon me, Mayor, it's on the business.
Okay.
Disregard.
All right. Any other changes to the agenda?
Mayor, 2 items we need to add to the agenda, if it's the pleasure of the council, and those are in the packet that's presented. It's labeled request for additions to the agenda. One item is a request to contract or amend to contract with the Power Services, and the second item is a request to replace pool heaters and UV system at the SRAC. Those are 2 separate items, and I'd ask they be added to the last 2 items, numbers 8 and 9 under business items.
Any other changes to the agenda? Okay.
Well, I have a question. Were we going to put number 6 back on the consent agenda, or are we going to leave it on the business agenda?
Business agenda,
Okay.
so we can talk about it a little bit. Just make sure everybody's clear on it. Okay, do we need a motion to approve this agenda?
I'll make a motion that we approve the amended agenda with the 2 additional business items.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, first item is a presentation of West Smithfield beautification project.
Mr. Mayor and Council, at last month's meeting, we made mention of the landscape improvements project that the Appearance Commission had been working on, and in discussions with DOT. And the purpose of this presentation is to inform you as to what has happened to this date. I'll notice one thing in the packet that's in your the action form that I presented to you. The funding for this would be through DOT. There are actually several pots of money that it would be coming from. It would not be coming all from one pot, and would be staggered in time as it comes to the town. As of this writing, DOT has committed $30,000 of this money specifically from the bridge project is one of the pots that it will be coming from, so that's the initial pot. But town planning staff working with the Appearance Commission has prepared a conceptual plan showing landscape improvements to the West Market Street entrance corridor from the Neuse River Bridge to Wilson Mills. The proposed plan is part of the continuing effort to upgrade the primary entrance corridors into Smithfield. In recent years, the Chamber of Commerce, working with the town, has worked on visual and landscape improvements on US 70 East from Broadleaf Boulevard to I-95. The proposed landscape improvements represented by this plan west of town are a logical extension of the improvements which have been made on the east side. The landscape improvements proposed on the west side of town are so designed to accomplish 2 goals. 1, reclaim the right-of-way of US 70, and 2, beautify and enhance the entrance corridor. All improvements within the right-of-way must be approved by DOT. In order to accomplish these goals, it is proposed that the right-of-way proper will be reclaimed by actually grading, grassing, and landscaping the entire area of the right-of-way outside the limits of pavement. Driveway entrances will be brought to NCDOT standards so as to accommodate the grassing and the landscaping as well to facilitate drainage. Landscape plantings will be primarily street tree plantings supplemented by shrub and ground cover plantings in specific locations. Street tree plantings are proposed to be similar to those at RDU along Airport Boulevard from I-40 to the terminals. The street tree plantings at RDU are grouped into orchards, and then the planting scheme alternates between deciduous trees, flowering trees, and evergreen trees. A similar approach for the street tree planting is proposed for West Market Street. Since the landscape plantings and the beautification improvements will take place in NCDOT's right-of-way, the conceptual plans have been reviewed with DOT as to see if they're in compliance with regulation and potential assistance in construction. NCDOT is in agreement with the concept landscape plan, but will require detailed landscape plans prior to review and approval. The Town Council is asked to review, comment, and approve the concept plan and direct staff to prepare detailed construction drawings for the proposed landscape entry corridor improvements along US 70. I have a map on the wall, which is the same map that you have in your packet. The Neuse River is here, Wilson Mills is here, the McDonald's is right off the drawing. This is NC 210. And as you can see, the plants are in groupings. There'll be a combination of shade trees and flowering deciduous trees in there, and also highlighted by some plantings of evergreen trees. The driveways associated with the various property access points to the various properties would be worked with between DOT and the property owners to determine where those actually would be. What is shown on your plans are representations of what it could possibly be. So with that, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Remlo, does this plan take out the turning lane, or is that still in there?
The turning lane is still in there. DOT has, it's shown as just two parallel lines, and at the scale that it was drawn at, it was very hard to show much detail in there. So I just represented it by two parallel lines, but the turning lane would still be there.
What's the timeline for your project?
Some of it would be started, could be started within just a few months after DOT's approval, because the funds are already in place for that. Other funds, which would be using DOT assistance, will take some period of time to obtain those, so it would be actually a phased situation, probably over a couple of years.
So you're going to put in curb cuts with all these landowners?
The driveway entrances would be brought to DOT standards. There would not be curbing there, but there would be driveway cuts.
That'd be great.
Any other questions for Mr. Hensley?
Just as part of the plan, I mean, as detailed, they're not berms built up. I mean, is this pretty much level, if you will? I mean,
there may be some need for berms to control drainage. We don't really anticipate big high berms. They would be rather low profile. DOT's requirement within their right-of-way, nothing can be higher than 30 inches for sight distance. So if there were a berm, it would be 30 inches or less, and it would be planted with a real low prostrate shrub like a short juniper or something that wouldn't get up very high.
okay.
I personally feel like this project is long overdue. I like the concept. I know no project's perfect. With the feedback from the business owners and the citizens, I'll make a motion that we approve the concept plan and move forward with the project.
Second.
Do we have a second on that?
Yes.
All in favor, say aye. Any further discussion on it? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Okay, thank you. We'll be back with you in a short period of time, probably within, not next council meeting, but the one after that, with some more detailed plans that we will ask you to review prior to going to DOT with it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bob. At this time, we always set aside some time in each of our council meetings for the public to come up, give a short statement if anyone has anything they'd like to address to the city council at this time. Come on up.
My name is Sarah Edwards. I'm the interim director at Downtown Smithfield Development Corporation. We are currently in the process of updating Downtown Smithfield's vision. We haven't had a vision statement for some time. It's generally recommended by the state and by the National Main Street Program that we update that every 5 years. So on the March 17th, we're hosting a vision forum at First Presbyterian Church. There will be refreshments and reception at 6:30. The forum will start at 7. We'll conclude at 9. It's an opportunity for like council members, town staff, citizens to come. We'll discuss the strengths and weaknesses of downtown Smithfield, and then we'll write vision statements for what downtown Smithfield should be over the next 5 years. It should be a great planning tool as we move forward and look to make some plans for downtown Smithfield. I hope y'all will join us.
Thank you, Sarah. All right. Moving along on that, we've already approved the consent agenda, so we'll move to the regular business items. Business item number 1.
Do we need to abstain?
We've already voted on the consent agenda.
I don't think so.
I think you approved it. I think he's going to make a motion to approve it.
Yeah, just
I'll make a motion to pursue the consent agenda.
Second.
second.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed? All right. Business item number 1, consideration to approve career ladder promotions and pay increases for 3 police officers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In front of you is a recommendation to promote 3 police officers in the career ladder in the Smithfield Police Department. These career ladder promotions would impact the current budget by about $1,658 for the next 15 weeks. There is ample funds within the budget to pay for these career ladder promotions. There was some discussion previously about how this might affect next year's budget. I have turned in our budget recommendations for next year for personnel and salaries, and it is a status quo budget as compared to this year, and that includes all anticipated career ladder increases for this year and next year.
Any questions for the chief?
I move we approve the request.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you, chief.
Thank you very much.
Item number 2, consideration to approve the amended audit contract.
Council. You were made aware during the last meeting, during the audit presentation, that our audit was submitted outside of the grace period. As a result of the audit, not only not meeting its deadline, but being submitted outside of the unspoken grace period, our contract has to be amended. This is really just a formality as required by the Local Government Commission.
So, Greg, can you just explain that? I realize it's government, and it's just a formality, but we had a contract It stated a date. We didn't make it. That is passed. It's last year. Why would we amend a contract that we had in place for 2013? It has nothing to do with 2014 audit. So, I mean, is there any other explanation except for it's just a formality? I mean, what does it
The
do?
explanation is,
It's a requirement.
it's a requirement as stated within the contract itself, that if anything about the contract that's material is not met, then a new contract has to be approved by the board or the town. I can tell you what should happen. During the course of the audit, when the auditor realizes that they're not going to meet the deadline, they should have submitted a contract, an amended contract, even before the audit was completed. But I'm told that many auditors get busy and just don't follow standard protocol, and last result is they have to have this amended contract on file before the LGC will release their final payment.
So this is a requirement from the LGC.
That's correct.
Not the auditors themselves.
That's correct.
And just to insert my 2 cents, I refused to sign it. They gave it to us a couple of weeks ago. I said the same thing. You're late, why am I re-signing the contract? But we're required by law, there's no extra money, it's a formality. So I'm okay with it.
So I did have another question, though. At the meeting that we had with the auditor, I asked the question why we were late. And I don't remember her mentioning when she replied. A factor in that was that 4 auditors left their office during this time period, but yet the letter that is addressed to the Local Government Commission states that. Did that, obviously, I guess, played a factor into it? I'm just kind of curious why she didn't mention that when I asked her in the meeting. And I hate to put you on the spot, you can't speak for her, but do you feel like that was
I
part
think
of the problem?
for a firm this size, losing 4 auditors is significant. It played as much of a role, if not more, than the town not producing certain documents on a timely basis.
And then I just have one other question. In the write-up that's in our package, it states that the audit was received at the Local Government Commission on January the 15th, but yet in their letter to the Local Government Commission, and I guess in our package, it says the audit was not submitted until January the 31st.
That's a misstatement, but unintentional.
Yeah, I know, but it's our auditors that are making the mistake.
What happens is even once the audit is submitted, it has to be reviewed and approved and accepted. It's on that acceptance date that they could consider that it was formally and finally submitted.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Greg?
Yes, Mayor. Mr. Solid, can this be prevented in the future, this type of amendment of the contract?
The contract that's used is a standard LGC contract. We can alter it. Even Mayor John suggested that going forward, we can insert language that reads something to the effect that if the audit is not received by the grace period, I won't even say the deadline, because very few audits are actually received by the deadline of October 31st, which is why there is an unspoken grace period. It's only after the grace period is not met that LGC kind of buckles down and starts to abide by what the contract says. So you can insert language that says that if they don't meet it, there are certain penalties, but you have to be aware that the auditor has to accept that before the contract becomes valid. I can't speak for the auditor, but I dare say that most auditors would not accept that type of language.
my auditors do for my business, and I don't think the town of Smithfield, I'm sorry to interrupt you, is an inconvenience. I mean, if they find it that way, I think we should shop them around.
Well, the other question is from what we're doing tonight, and I'm sorry I didn't read every bit of this contract in great detail, but if we amend this contract tonight, how good is it? How long is the period for? If we amend it tonight, does this cover our 2014 services with them?
No,
So
this
we
contract,
we do another contract. Do we have a 2014 contract yet?
we do not.
Okay. All right, so
That has to be brought before you.
Okay. So, back to Mayor Lampy's suggestion, they won't get paid until we amend this contract, is that correct?
That's correct.
So, from a negotiation standpoint, should we at least think about that?
The North Carolina State Government, the board that reviews these, what's the board's name?
LGC.
Government,
LGC. We have to abide by that.
Okay.
We don't have, that was the first thing I said was, I'm not going to sign it. And Paul's contacted them, it's basically, it's formality, but they're going to force us to sign it.
As I understand it, the auditor could have come back to us last fall and said, you didn't give me the stuff yet. So the contract's void. We've got to renegotiate then. But the auditor plowed forward. Correct?
Correct.
If they could have shut it down,
Voidable.
but they could have shut down the work because we didn't comply with the contract, we didn't get them the stuff on time. Is that correct, Greg?
Well, there was only one or two items hanging out there on the end.
When did they
Those
get
items
those?
didn't come directly from the town, they came from other sources.
Yeah, I want to make sure, I mean, I don't want there to be more read into it. I mean, our staff complied. When they were asked something, they got to them as soon as they could. There were some outside sources that have to give letters and reports and other things, like Greg said, that we can't control. But when they asked for something, we got it back to them, usually within a few days, if it was feasible. I mean, as soon as possible. So I don't want anybody to think that, the staff drug its feet. We did not. They didn't ask for some of the stuff. They said the one thing wasn't provided until January 3rd. I mean, some things they didn't ask for until December. So, and we couldn't very well meet that in advance. So, I mean, and they spent, I think, a day and a half here, actual field time here. So again, I mean, you can read between the lines, but had they spent, I don't know, a crazy 3 days here, maybe they could have gotten a lot more stuff done. I agree. I mean, at the end, it's not radically different than other towns or treated, but it's just not, we're not necessarily a high priority. And they had some staff issues. I mean, I think Greg coming in, he did a great job. He got a lot of help from Andrew, who preceded him in getting it ready. And we had stuff to them in July that normally they don't have at all. So I thought we started off way ahead of the game. They let it sit and sit and sit. And then they started asking for stuff in October, November. So, I mean, they kind of created their own problem, and then it was convenient for them whenever it was, month or a couple weeks ago, to leave that part out that, oh, by the way, their firm lost 4 people. That kind of made it harder on them. But anyway, I want to make sure that's clear. I guess, nothing's perfect, but I thought, Greg and staff performed well in getting the information to them. And again, the deadlines are kind of a moving target sometimes. I think that's pretty clear because there's a deadline, then there's a real deadline that the LGC recognizes too. But I think maybe going forward, we just try and insert some of that language into the new contract. And if they bought, or the LGC's now, we're just not going to let you do that, then, we kind of see where we sit at that point and see if we can't have something that's a little bit more, if they're late, we get some discount on the fee, something like that in the future.
It's a taxing process for all involved, not just the towns, but auditors. I think I heard Phyllis Pearson say that they have some 60 contracts to perform between July 1, and officially, most towns aren't ready at that point because you're still processing invoices, et cetera. So it's a taxing process for all involved, and inevitably, someone's audits get turned in late. This time it happened to us.
I may be wrong, but I don't think we've ever gotten our audit on time since I've been on the council.
Well, as I understood,
Not since October
Auditor,
31st.
but as I understood, Auditor, we're in good shape to where that's not going to be a problem anymore. But because of the turnover, that's created some of the problems we've had, but that's all straightened out now.
Yeah.
That was my understanding.
It's definitely better.
Yeah.
Not to toot your own horn, right?
I can't do that. I came in at the 10th ending of the ball game.
Any other discussion on this issue? All right. I need a motion.
I make a motion, we approve this request.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right. Item number 3, consideration to approve change of vendors for merchant credit and debit card agreement.
This is one of my favorite type items to come before you with, the opportunity to reduce the town's expenses. One such area identified is with our debit credit card transactions. You see that the business is currently handled by First Citizens Bank. They charged just under $70,000 last fiscal year to process those transactions for us. We took bids from several banks, and PNC had the best proposal. It's hard to estimate exactly what the savings would be because there are some 300-plus different types of credit cards, believe it or not, and they all get processed or charged differently. And so my best guess scenario is that the savings by changing merchant processors would be between $21,000 and $36,000 a year.
So, Greg, just a question, a clarification. It looks like PNC would be 12 basis points plus 0.5 per transaction. But the write-up says the lowest would be 0.20 basis points and 8 cents per transaction.
You're correct. I picked up the wrong column in my write-up.
But it is indeed 12.
It's 12 basis
12 and
points.
5 is correct. Just Madam Clerk, as
Thank you for
matter of the
bringing
record.
that up.
Is PNC going to process any different credit cards than what we're currently accepting?
What we're currently accepting is Visa, MasterCard, and I believe Discover. American Express is an option for us, but they come with different charges. And so historically, we haven't accepted American Express, and I hadn't planned to.
Is this going to help with the online payments? Does this have anything to do with that? We were told that a while back.
This is separate from online processing. I'm sure that PNC would honor the same agreement, not that they would get the business. And I say that simply because we're uncertain about exactly who we're going to use for that service and what type of stipulations comes with their offer.
Yeah, and we may go around this, no matter who the bank would be, go around it where an online payment firm, they'll process it their own without even going that way. There may still be some bank draft payments that this might be involved with, or we're using over-the-card credit card payments. If we use another true online that doesn't really involve a person at all, they actually go and they process it themselves through their own, I don't know if you call it their own mini merchant account, but they have a separate processing system. That's where I hope we'll end up, in the near future. And there was a question about getting there, and now that we're moving away from the one computer system, we're going to probably stay with Logix for the foreseeable future and try and go with a separate third-party vendor. And there's several of them out there who are ready to move in once we had settled with, a new computer system. If we end up staying with Logix for the foreseeable future, then we can use any of those vendors and decide how much we want to charge or pay ourselves, how much we want to let the user of the online banking pay as part of their convenience fee kind of a transaction. But so this should not complicate that at all. It should not.
Paul, do you have a timeline for that?
Well, as you know, we recently decided to move forward with a new computer system, not go forward with the one that we were having discussions with recently. So with that in mind, we've either side if we want to go out for a new services agreement, take offers again, or Right now, we're looking hard at just patching together what we can for maybe the next 2 years with Logix, and then adding this online payment account with Logix. If we do then, say in a year or 2 years, have a new computer system, that kind of was what we're trying to do with the former firm. Do that. We're hoping that the new firm could just use the same online billing or have their own system. Logix does have a system in place they could use. We're just not sure it's the best bang for the buck, but it is there. So actually, I'm hoping this will actually open the door, which we've been waiting for all this time, with the software provider. Staying with Logix, that makes it very clear, so we can talk to these 2 or 3 vendors who have been hanging around waiting for the other group to come in there. That's not going to happen, so now we'll go back and talk to Logix and make that work. And most of them, if I remember, I can't remember them all, the key ones we talked to, they said, oh, we can serve you if you have Logix, that's not a problem. So does that answer your question? A little confusing, I know, but going forward from where we were trying to go for the last several months, as you know, has been a struggle. Mm-hmm. So now either staying with Logix or even re-advertising, rebidding it, will allow us to use some of these other third-party vendors. And again, I'm just, as long as it's taking us, I guess I'm leaning toward just staying with Logix for the next year, maybe 24 months, kind of, doing the best we can there, and then go ahead and getting that online account set up, see how we like it or don't like it, and then taking a longer look at another possible complete replacement for all of our accounting system, like we tried to do before, but that one's just not going to work out as we talked about. So it's good, I think, but the problem with the online has just been holding up, waiting to get a new computer system there, and we kept waiting, and since that's not going to happen, we can go with our existing system and just try to move forward with it. Okay. So yeah, we're all anxious to kind of make that move.
I have a question. This cost plus shows, under P&C it says 12, I assume that's 0.12. The others show 0.2, 0.1, 0.22,
It is
0.20.
12 basis points.
0.12, does that equate to 1.5% or 1.2%?
No, that's along the lines of, if I could round it to 10, it's like a tenth of 1%.
It's 12 out of 100. 1 basis point is 100 points.
So what are they charging us to transition the credit card? What percentage?
Right now?
Now what is this? The 12 basis points. It's less than 1%?
Significantly less than 1%.
Okay.
Greg, there appear to be some significant differences in the price and some significant savings here. Your recommendation is to go with P&C, and I feel comfortable relying upon your work and your recommendation. And with that, I make a motion we approve the request.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Thank you, Greg. Item number 4, discussion and approval of contracts to update the town's strategic economic development plan.
Mayor, on page 71 of your packet, you have the letter from Mr. Rocky Lane of Sanford Holzhauser firm. And if you recall, we've talked about this a few times, and they submitted a proposal to update our existing strategic economic development plan, which was last done in 2004 for the town. They've agreed to update it for a fee of, we've used $10,000. It's actually $9,800 plus travel and expenses, estimated to be about $10,000, and that may vary with a little bit of travel, but we think the estimated $10,000 will basically cover it. That will pay for the update to bring that information up from 2004 through the present 2014. Also, we've also talked about some contributions from different entities. We've got 5 entities involved, all of which have agreed to contribute $2,000 apiece, including the town as one of those contributors. So in fact, the town's out-of-pocket cost would be $2,000, and then the Downtown Smithfield group Appreciate Sarah's help there. The Smithfield Selma Chamber, Electricities, and also the Visitors Bureau of Johnston County have all agreed to contribute $2,000 toward this project. And it will also benefit all of those groups, and I think they see that benefit. This is a plan that will give us a lot of data on what's needed, what will be good marketing information, whether Sarah needs a new retailer in downtown, or where the chamber is trying to help promote a business that wants to expand. It gives them information about what they think the demographic, the socioeconomic impact of our town, what works, what doesn't work, give them some information. So really, it's one of those toolbox items that's on your shelf. You can show a group who's looking. And one, it's a professional answer to questions that may be asked by a retailer. So it's a good document to have. And also, it's a good document. It gives you a lot of information, some of which we know, some of which we sense, but it gives you kind of a numeric representation of what's going on in town. So I recommend we do go through and make this commitment. We can use $2,000 out of our Economic Development Fund, which is on the utility side of our budget. There's a substantial amount of money funded there, so we are able to do that, and I think it's a good project. And so this request is to ask for your approval to, one, fund it, and also to execute the agreement and get Mr. Lane started on the project as soon as possible.
I move we approve the request.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Item number 5, discussion and approval of changes to the May 6, 2014 regular town council meeting.
Here on page 85 of your packet, you'll see a request basically to reschedule the meeting. Our meeting date is on the same night, May 6th, as the primary election, and as most of you know very well, this facility is used as an election facility, actually these chambers exactly. So actually there's endless options, I suppose. We try to think through a few easy ones that may work. And one of them was to either move the regular meeting date back to these chambers on Wednesday, or just relocate the meeting date, keep it on Tuesday, the same night of the election, and move over to the fire station training room and meet over there, which is a nice venue. You know, it can be hectic on those election nights. You may not want to, in case people are voting and they have a presentation, you know, whether it's here or somewhere else. Some feel strongly that, you know, you should try to protect that night, just the sanctity of the voting opportunity, but different councils do it different ways. Either one works, I think. It's just a preference of council. So, of course, we could reschedule 2 other nights too. Those seem to be the closest to our regular meeting time and try to accommodate all concerned. So what we recommended was either just move across the street the same night, or just reschedule the meeting from Tuesday to Wednesday. So it's at the pleasure of the council.
Paul, are we charging them for any rent or anything?
I don't think we've ever charged. I think, you know, during elections, we have to pay for some of the services. I don't know that they even pay anywhere and anywhere. I think they would probably just go somewhere else if that were the case. I think the idea is that if we have it here, you know, it's convenient to our voters and our citizens in this the impacted ward or district.
My preference would be to keep it on the 6th and move it to the fire station. Wednesday night, we're getting into church obligations and things like that. But that would be my preference, but I'll go along with whatever the council wants to do.
I'm happy just moving over to the fire station.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion about moving to the fire station to keep on the same date and time?
You all right with that, John?
Yeah. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, item number 6. Approval of proposed change to employee handbook compensation time policy. Emery, can I let you talk about that, or Paul? Who's going to run that one?
You know, I'd rather Emery talk about that one.
Emery, let's talk about it.
Thank you. After much discussion, committee meetings, and further discussions, the previous recommendation has actually been amended somewhat, and that's been passed out to you. And I'll be glad to read it into the record since it It is really almost identical to the one in the agenda, but I'll read the changes. Employees in positions determined to be exempt from the Fair Labor Standards Act as executive, administrative, or professional staff shall not be entitled to pay or compensatory time for hours worked in excess of 40 hours per week. Paragraph. In extraordinary circumstances only, these employees may be granted personal leave by the city manager for excessive hours worked. The determination of such extraordinary circumstances shall be within the discretion of the city manager. Extraordinary circumstances may include, but are not limited to, inclement weather, major fires, major investigations, and such similar circumstances. This comes to the council on recommendation of the committee that was appointed by this council. And as such, I'll make the motion that we approve the change in the policy to the language stated.
Second.
If I may, on the additional, if y'all recall, there was some additional language outside of those two key paragraphs that were in your packet to just very minor.
It brings the rest of the...
It brings it in conformity with that.
But what we have in front of us here, what Emery just read, is the final one that we're voting on, is that correct?
Plus the other incidental changes that Paul has outlined.
Yeah, there were just a few that took out the word exempt or non-exempt. If you look in the packet on page 90, it looks like. The end of that, and was just making it compatible with the language that Mr. Ashley just read. It just wasn't all in one area. There were a few other little spotty portions in that whole section, and this just makes it consistent.
Emery, you're happy with the changes and Charles?
Yes.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I just want to thank the committee for, I know the hard work that was put in on this. You guys looked at a lot of policies and made a lot of stuff, and I appreciate your work and efforts on this.
Anything else? All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay. Number 7, approval of the 2014-2015 budget schedule and setting the next budget meeting.
Mayor, just a follow-up from our preliminary budget meeting last week. This is really just, you've got the budget schedule, which we haven't adopted yet, and really those are just the dates of really the adoption, the preliminary, just to meet those deadlines and target dates. And really this is just a convenience for the public so they have an idea of what our schedule is in general. It does not include any specific workshop dates, which you can add as needed, and that would be between that March, roughly 17th timeframe and the end of April. And those can be added or taken away at your pleasure too. So one will be to approve that schedule, and then secondly, I will have the kind of preliminary budget draft after your direction from last week. I'll have that ready by March 17th in that time frame, and depending on how the council wants to proceed with that, I think there was some discussion about having a meeting after we have that kind of revised budget draft ready for the council to review, so you have time to take a look at it, and then have another kind of budget workshop of some nature, again, at your direction, would be the second part of, after the 17th, but the second part of March, and kind of take it, whether you want to do it as another general discussion or divide it up into departments and meet and have a little bit more review. So really 2 requests, one for the general schedule, and then one the next meeting date that you'd like to have for the council to meet and review the budget in a little bit more detail.
So Paul, just as a point, as of right now, I will be scheduled to be out of place May 12th through the 17th, which is just during the period where we're scheduling the hearing and so forth, but just FYI, if you will.
Okay. Paul, I understand right. You want to set aside for a meeting on March 17th and one on April 29th? No. I mean, are there any dates we're voting on? What are we doing here?
Well, one is the schedule. We haven't adopted a schedule yet, which that would give the public, again, a process as to what our deadlines are, which I think is important. So,
Well,
the
I'm moving
second one
on
is
the
a
schedule.
specific workshop date, if you want to have one, because right now there's not one scheduled. So if we don't adopt one, there won't be one scheduled until there's one scheduled. I mean, I can schedule one, but I prefer to have your input with it. And again, it won't be ready until after the 17th of March, and that's the time frame. It could be right around that time, a week later, or it could be in early April if that's the council's pleasure. But I mean, I understand that the council wants to review a draft budget again before it gets a recommended budget.
So,
It seems like we probably need two separate motions. Then.
yes.
So I move that we approve the schedule, first that we approve the schedule you've outlined.
Second.
All right, I got a motion and a second, any discussion? And I've got a quick discussion just to clarify. Just like the third line down, and I'm looking at this budget sheet right here, and it says February 6th through 21st, meetings between DH and town. For the meetings for the town council, are they on this list?
No,
Okay.
that's just a staff, that's just an internal.
Okay, that's
just
why I got
internal
confused. All right.
schedule.
That
That's
sounds
right.
great. All in favor of approving this schedule for the internal town employees? We just have a motion and a second already?
Yes, sir.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that passes.
Second motion.
Yeah, Paul, I guess you're wanting to go ahead and set dates now for the workshops?
Yeah, and we can do it one by one, you know, we could do several dates. In the past, we've done Wednesdays, and again, we don't have to have as many meetings, we can only have one or two if that works for the council, and try and talk about, you know, several departments at one meeting. In the past, we had somewhere between 4 or 5, maybe as many as 6. 4 or 5 really department related, and the other ones were just adoption, more preliminary review of more of a final document before the final public hearing on it.
I know we need to set meetings. Do we need a motion to set meetings, or is that something we can all check our schedules and agree through email?
I think we just check our schedules and do emails and just set a meeting that way.
Those days.
But we don't need a motion on that. All right, that should take care of number 6. And Paul, you'll make sure to send some emails and see if we can get our schedules.
Well, he's showing on the schedule we just approved March 3rd through 7th, second budget review. But today's the 4th.
But that's internal. That's just
With the
staff.
budget heads.
That's just staff to have a document. That's right, that's right.
Okay. Well, I certainly have schedule conflicts, more than my brain could tell you right now. So I'd like to be involved in this.
Paul, it seems to me that what we probably need to do is maybe meetings with department heads, maybe we could have 2 meetings in 1 week. Maybe on a Tuesday and a Thursday, and then maybe if we need a preliminary meeting, meet the week before. It just seems like if we're going to have departmental meetings, we probably ought to get those done fairly close together.
Well, we're going to be presented a budget, correct? And then we've kind of done this thing where department heads came in and went over every line item on their budget. And my suggestion to the mayor has been that we get a budget, we have a few days or a week to look it over, and then let's have a budget meeting. If we have a question, you may want to schedule them to be here or something along those lines, but, you know, is it really productive to have a meeting where one of the department heads talks the whole meeting about things we've already got in front of us that we can see? So my suggestion to the mayor was that if we have particular questions on certain nights, we could bring department head in to answer, but other than that, I don't know that we really need them here for all this, for those meetings.
Perry has mentioned this to me, and I've talked to Paul about it. I think we can keep the department heads discussion at the start probably less than 10 or 15 minutes max. But they'll need to hang around so we can ask them questions. They're going to present a preliminary budget, a rough draft. Department head will speak. We can go ask questions and go ourselves. And then we'll try to knock out 2 departments each time or more, whatever, how many we can get. And then I'd like to do kind of a planning session at the end of it a little bit. But hopefully we can keep it brief enough, we'll get a lot done.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll send out emails and get all these schedules put together.
So for clarification, maybe we're gonna do 2 department heads at a time?
Yeah, I will try to, if we can. I'd like to pack them in as much as we can. Some things we approve budgets on don't even have department heads. It might just be a financial budget or for some bank account or some things. So some of them are pretty easy. But some will take a lot of time, so we'll try to space them out that way.
I mean, in the past, we had meetings where the department heads presented us their budget. We went through all of that. We had very little time to talk. And at the end of the process, the mayor wanted a motion to approve the budget.
Well, we're not going to do that this time. All right, so we've got number seven as an agenda item done, and my understanding is as part of this, Shannon or Paul will send us emails and we'll set the schedules for the budget meetings. All right, we got the 2 added items, and I'm going to call the first one number 8. Which is, request a contract with Power Services, is that what we're doing?
My apologies for getting this to you on such short notice, but once again, we're trying to meet a local government commission deadline. If you recall, the letter they sent out February 6th in response to our audit gave us 30 days to respond to them. So there's just a couple days left for us to get them a reply to our audit. But one of the findings of the audit, as you are well aware, is that our bond order, one of the covenants within the bond order was broken, if you will, we were out of compliance with. And as a result, the instructions from the bond order are pretty explicit. It says that we must hire a consulting firm to review the revenues and expenses of the electrical department and bring back recommendations, if any. Made some phone calls to just a handful of engineering firms, and like you, I'm surprised at the cost variance for pretty much doing what I believe is the same work. A company that the town is familiar with, Power Services, managed by R.L. Willoughby, gave us a very reasonable quote for the service, and he's also willing to come to you afterwards and present his findings. So this request is just to engage his services to carry out the bond order.
I move we approve the request. I don't think we have a choice here. Obviously, we have a choice. It'd be a bad choice, but I move we approve the request.
I will say that I haven't had a chance to do this. If at all possible, if we are able to get refinancing of this bond, just have it moved over to an installment loan. If I can get a bank to commit and start forward with that process, which in and of itself is a lengthy process because we have to go back through the local government commission, which is on short about a 60-day process. But if I can get that ball rolling on the front end, we'll approach LGC about waiving this requirement on the notion that we're going to refinance. That's hopeful.
Sorry, I've got a motion. I'm looking for a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah. It concerns me that we're going to hire somebody and not give them any guidance. I mean, people could charge us $2,200 to come back and say, raise our electric rate. And obviously, I think the council certainly understands raising our electric rate is not an option. So I would want to make sure that if we do this, we make it clear to them that The one option they can't come back to us with is the raised electric rates.
I agree with you. I don't think complying with the terms of the bond requires us to necessarily comply with multiple suggestions that they may give us. I don't think we're obligated, if that is their ultimate conclusion, I don't think we're bound to do that. We've got an obligation to hire a consultant.
Correct.
To evaluate. It seems kind of wishy-washy, but I think that's the way it is.
Yeah, and the agreement, it actually gives you many options from, putting in simple terms, not necessarily just raising rates, or else it's raise rates, cut expenses. It's got many options in there, which, I know the Power Services firm, we can tell them, obviously, explore anything but raising rates as an option and see what they come back with. And my guess is it'll be like a multiple, A, raise rates, B, cut expenses here, here, and here, C, do some blend of the two. And they'll give you multiple ways to, in their opinion, meet this requirement. Or they may say you're going to be fine this year because the revenue's already way ahead of expenses and you won't have a problem at all. So I think they'll give them multiple scenarios that we can do it.
We were at 63% of the debt ratio. What does that equate to in dollars?
It seems to me that our annual payment is around $360,000, and our profit, if you will, I don't want to particularly like using that word, but we were ahead in revenues after adding back depreciation, just a little better than $200,000.
So if we'd had another $200,000, the rate would not have been 63%. It would have been 70 or higher, which is 70 is the threshold. Is that correct?
It has to be 120% greater than our debt payment, and our debt payment is around $360,000.
So we're about $200,000 off, I think, from meeting that ratio.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got a new utilities director on staff who I think understands our feelings on rates.
The magic man.
After listening to the audit lady speak and give her recommendations and looking at these notes here, it's clear we need to do something. I think we need to make sure, I second what these guys say, and our citizens know it is our goal not to raise their rates. My concern is with some of the transactions coming up and with the consent agenda item, we need to make sure that we focus on getting our revenue neutral in our electric department. And we need to, with this budget session coming up, we need to really put some thought into those transfers from the electric fund into the general fund. I know that's hard to do, but it's going to take all of us as a team to make that happen. So that would actually help us get closer to that.
But I'll also say, and I 100% agree about raising rates, but we also have an obligation to the bondholders. And ultimately, we have to do what we have to do. So if that means raising the rates, we'll have to see. And we have to make tough decisions. I'm not advocating that, but we do have an obligation.
So. It certainly will be an option.
Right. Obviously, it's not what we want to do.
The last option.
The last option. But ultimately, we have an obligation. We have a $5 million bond, and we have bondholders out there that we have an obligation to. So, obviously, we don't want to raise it.
Do we want to add the additional comments that Greg?
Well, all we're doing is hiring these people right now, and then they'll bring it back to us, and then we'll have a real discussion and make what decisions we're going to make on it. But Greg, what did you need? We've got a motion.
I think, Charles, you're talking about
to explore.
We're going to authorize the hiring, but you're going to first look at the possibility of refinancing this debt. So it's not a bond.
I'm in discussion right now with one of the more aggressive banks in our state. And they're supposed to let me know shortly if they think refinancing is a viable option.
He needs approval from council to pursue it?
I don't think you'll need approval to just to shop the rate.
Okay.
But I've got a second and a motion to approve hiring these folks at $2,200 to do this study. Is there any other discussion on that? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? That's unanimous. All right. Now let's talk about pool heaters.
All right. The original plan was to bring this to you for the 14-15 fiscal year, but we've had yesterday one of our it's kind of hard to explain. There are two pool heaters heat the splash park, and 3 pool heaters heat the large pool at the Recreation Aquatic Center. One is out on both sides. It only takes one on the splash part, and one is the other one is a reserve. On the large pool, it takes 2. It has 3. The other one is a reserve. So over the last year, 9 months or so, we've been repairing those heaters, and we had 2 that were working on the large pool and 1 working on the splash park, which was okay. We knew in this upcoming budget year we'd need to replace some of those heaters, preferably 3 of them. So we'd have, to make sure the water was heated the way it should be. Along with that is a UV system. The UV system is basically an ultraviolet light. Water passes through or by that, and it helps kill bacteria in the water, which reduces the chemical usage to treat the water. That also is in need of being repaired. But things changed yesterday when one of the 2, or the remaining heater that was operating on the splash park went down. It's out. They came and looked at it actually this morning, and it's irreparable. The heat exchanger went out in it, and the fin wall, which is pretty much the brains of it, are gone too. He said he could repair that, be about 1/3 the cost of a new heater, and he couldn't promise that when he did that, there weren't other things that could be wrong with it. So I guess we have several different options, and I'll let Mr. Savison, if he wants to expound on that a little bit. The most immediate need is the splash park pool is shut down now, and we need to get that back running as soon as we can. Number 1, for just the plain use of the facility, but number 2 is that's a revenue generator for us. There's no way we can have it done by this weekend, and so we're going to have to cancel their 12 or 14 birthday parties, which is probably $1,800, $2,000 in revenue. So we want to get it back up, obviously, that one at least as soon as we can. All these costs that are shared with the school system, and they have funds now on reserve. Actually, they have funds to go ahead and do 3 of the heaters and the UV system, and so that would be one request, if we could do that and replace the other 2 heaters, either in next year's fiscal or next fiscal year budget, or when they actually do go down. But immediately, we really need to at least get that one, if nothing else. I don't know if Paul has anything to add to that, or try to answer any questions.
No, I think that pretty much sums it up. I mean, so in short, there's 5 heaters in total, in full, 2 of them in the splash park, 3 in the main pool. They're all broken except for 2 in the main pool. So that one, those are working, but they could last, 6 months or a year. They are working on the main pool. Splash part can't be used with the 2 broken heaters. So obviously, as Tim said, we need to at least fix one at a minimum in the splash part. But given that the school system is ready, willing, and able to spend its matching funds this fiscal year, this budget year, and next year, is a different year for everybody. I would prefer to consider at least doing 3 of the 5 heaters. That is the 3 that are broken. The 2 that are still working in the main pool. If we can get another 6 months or a year out of that, we can worry about that in this upcoming fiscal year's budget. But let's go ahead and fix the 3 that are down now, share that cost with the school system, and also repair the UV system. And I figured that cost. At total cost of $35,650. Our share would be $17,825 of that. And it sounds like the school system stands ready, willing, and able to share in that cost in this budget year. We can get that fixed. It sounds like we can get the heater in the splash park fixed, not by the weekend, but probably by early next week, which is the one most pressing because of the fees generated there. And funds available, this would be a use of contingency line item. That's from our general contingency line, 4100-3400, authorizing those payments if we go that route, which would be just under $18,000. So the authorization would be to, again, if it's the council's desire, to replace those 3 heaters and the UV system for that town cost of $17,825, using the contingency line item to pay for it. And our contingency line item will still be in good shape, even if that expenditure is authorized.
Tim, will they do the 3 heaters at the same price as the 5 heaters?
Yes.
Tim, how long has the first heater been off on the splash part? Do we know?
Since the fall.
And you said 6 to a month. Paul establishing is all that's going to last at that cost?
No, I mean, I don't know what the repair guy said on these are the heaters. He didn't know.
Based on the other 3 not working immediately.
How much other equipment over there is turned off that is not operating or is broke down that we don't know about?
Nothing that I know of.
Is the UV system currently up and operating?
It's operating, but not at 100%.
Well, I have a concern if we spend this much money without having multiple people come in and make a recommendation. I would say, I'd make a motion that, obviously we got to get the pool back going, that we fix it. Is there any way that he could take, of the 2, is both of them irreparable, or is one, what's wrong with the other one? It's just off?
Yeah, we've already robbed parts from, there are 3 now that are down. We've robbed parts from each of them to keep them operating. And here's the problem. We've reached out to several different vendors. We found 2 that will do the heaters and only 1 that will do the UV system. It's just there aren't that many those kinds of contractors that work on them. So I mean, we can keep trying that. I agree with you. If we can get the 1 done, but finding someone to do the work.
Well, part of the problem too, I think it's all 5 of the heaters that have been there since the pool opened. Is that right?
Yeah.
Those are the original heaters.
Not that old.
They're well, these heaters are residential pool heaters. They're not full commercial use heaters. Don't know why that happened.
Who authorized to put residential heaters in a commercial application? That's ridiculous.
I'm sorry?
Who authorized to put residential heaters in a commercial application?
Not Paul.
I don't know. My guess is...
Maybe we need to get a master plan for equipment maintenance.
My guess is it was probably the contractor who won the contract on low bid for that project.
When they spec'd it out, the contractor, I'm assuming however they spec'd it out, they did whatever they could do to lessen the cost.
So is this price that you got for $18,000?
No, they're commercial.
That's a commercial heater?
Yeah.
Do we need 3 or 4 or 5 heaters?
Yeah.
I guess the question is what is the difference between the specs, whether it's residential or commercial? I mean, the specs is what matters. You know, is the commercial spec'd out, is there to service this pool? Because they're probably more than different specs for different size pools and so forth.
Right, the BTUs on it, they have, the commercial have Cupro nickel operating system, which stands up to the corrosiveness of the chemicals better. And so I think that's one reason that, I mean, they're better, last longer, and, you know, they're more expensive.
Right. And of course, just as you mentioned, as far as that goes, we need to make sure that from a chemical standpoint that we're maintaining the pool properly so that it doesn't corrode those heaters or whatever. I mean, we need to make sure that all, I mean, I know you've already thought about that, obviously, but, you know, make sure that from our side, from maintaining the water and so forth, it's not corroding those heat exchangers as well.
Right, well, the reason that's happening because the heaters are in the same room as the chemicals are, so just the, you know, the residue and fumes from that has an effect on the equipment, on everything in there.
Right.
Tim, I understand that this is not your fault, this equipment broke down, but it does concern me that some of the equipment is half off. I mean, you should have a primary and a backup, whatever. But this really is, I don't think it's a good way for us to do business. I hope that we can maybe get some type of plan for our maintenance or whatever. I mean, that stuff's not that old. I mean, you get 10 or 12 years pumps and all that other stuff. I mean, there's no telling what kind of time bomb there is. I would make a suggestion that we perhaps look at finding other vendors to service that equipment or possibly replace it. It could save us some money, having a little bit better background in that area. But I would make a motion to the council that we would fix the heater, get the splash part back on, whatever that takes, and then we look at the other as a plan, you know, kind of get a development plan and get some bids for those other ones and get it online like it should be. So I'll make that motion.
Just to clarify, Travis, you say make a motion. Are you making a motion to buy the 3 pool heaters, which is the minimum? Then?
No, I make a motion to replace one for the splash part.
And that's it?
And we'll look at the other ones, you know, as a project. I mean, that'll get them back online like they've been running for the past 6-8 months anyways.
Do we have any idea on the repair cost, Tim?
Well, to repair the one would be about a third of, because you got to replace the most important parts in it, would be about a third of what a new one would cost. But again, he said he would not guarantee it because he don't know what else could be wrong with it. So we could do that, repair it, and then not work at all and need something else, or it work, you know, 3 or 4 months.
Well, yeah, I'm just trying to understand, the action requested is to repair it and then replace it. I recommend repairing 3 of the 5 pool heaters and HV system immediately, and then budget repair the remaining pool heaters. So really, we're not looking, the request is not to repair anything, it's replace.
Yeah, I should have been replaced.
But the motion is to repair.
I'll make an amendment to that motion that we replace with a commercial heater, that one to get the splash part back online as soon as possible and develop a plan to get the other ones online like they should be.
Second.
All right, let's have some discussion on it. Tim, can you get by with 1?
Yeah, that'll get it back. That'll get it back running. And I would like to.
And your pool guy. I mean, obviously, if you defer maintenance or whatever, I don't know how much is just random bad luck, how much is you're trying to cut costs and keep the budget too tight or whatever. But can you go through and make an equipment list? And I think Travis is onto something about kind of budgeting. You know, this is what I really need to get everything back up to speed and that kind of thing, more than just bringing us some pieces of what you need.
Mayor, may I say something?
Yes, sir.
This brings up a topic that it's not just the aquatic center, but all of our facilities need a long-range plan. And, you know, a prime example is water treatment facility. We should have in our possession or updated to us on a yearly basis their long-range plan for the next 5 years on what possibly could go wrong, the life expectancy of the pool. the basketball court, the roof, the water treatment facility. Certainly, we've got some issues down there, and I think that, again, we need, and there may be one in place somewhere stuck in a drawer, but I've never laid eyes on it, but we need a long-range plan for forecasting the finances to support these facilities. And I would suggest that we ask the town manager to look at all of our facilities and to come up with a long-range strategic plan or whatever. Our fire chief certainly brings up to us about the fire truck needs way in advance, and the fire stations way in advance. But, we don't need Tim coming here asking for X amount of dollars without us knowing that those pool heaters might last only 6 or 8 years. And, what's going to happen when the pool's got a leak in it over there, it's going to be $200,000 or $300,000. But my point is, you can't necessarily always defeat issues that come up, but you can have a plan and start to allow some backup for some of those maintenance issues that are coming down the pipe, some much larger than others.
Any other discussion on this? Travis's motion to buy one new commercial heater?
Well, the only thing I don't know, and the only comment I'll make, is that you buy one, you get the price of one, and you got the labor. Do you, by economies of scale, do you save money by doing 3 at a time, as opposed to one and then some later? I don't know the answer to that. That's just.
Well, yes, there is some. He told, the vendor, the guy that will do the work. So it's now, I think it's about $500 because he's got to do 2 different trips and pretty much redo everything twice. But there is a little bit there.
How about, does the heater cost the same whether you buy 1 or 3?
Yeah.
Well, I think the first one, to get this one done, is going to cost a little bit more than I think you were going to wait on the order of whether it was 2 more or 3 more, because you could wait and get those priced a little bit cheaper. I think to get the Splash Park one was going to cost you a little bit more.
What's going to cost more is to get it here quicker.
Right.
So Tim, did you put this out for bid?
Yeah, we did. Well, we didn't put like an RFP, but we contacted companies that we're aware of. We Googled it and contacted, I can bring the list that we contacted, and I only got back information from 2, and 1, it took, we've been working on this since probably November when we started having the issues. Now that they were all working at that time, but we knew that it was going to, at some point in time, that it was going to, that they were going to go down, and that we needed, because basically what it is, there is a reserve on both sides, and they alternate so that one doesn't run all the time, or in the other case, so that the same 2 don't run all the time. So finding someone that can do it, or that will do it, and we'll do that again. We'll try again, and you may have some contacts you can tell me about, or.
Well, Tim, what are your maintenance costs running right now, roughly? To make the repairs. So if we only do one at this time, and then we've got 2 others that you're having to repair to keep going, what are you roughly spending repair-wise?
Well, I think the last time we had that repairing you was back in the fall. Seems it was like around $1,000 or $1,200. Again, that's split with the school system.
Mm-hmm.
I've still got a motion and a second to buy one new commercial hot water heater for the pool.
Yep.
The splash part, and the ask Tim go back and make a careful study of all his uses and estimate of what he thinks he's going to need in the future and what's going on equipment-wise. So is there any more discussion on that motion? Change to it? I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you, Tim. All right, Mr. Manager. Oh, I'm sorry, councilmen's comments. Any council members have any comments they'd like to make or any subjects they want to bring up?
I'll speak first, Mayor. Just want to thank the department heads for responding to my request by email on some detailed information on the monthly reports. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. Moving on to the town manager's reports.
Mayor, just a couple items. I've sent you some updates in my weekly report. Just to follow up on the water main break a week or so ago now on North Brightleaf. The leak has been repaired. We're still waiting on some of the pavement and some of the costs, which Lenny, I think, is still going to try to do that during the PAL bill funding fixed in, make that part of his bid. I don't know. I haven't heard just a preliminary cost, but there is a good bit of resurfacing, and unfortunately, it's on a state highway, so that cost will add a little bit to that PAL bill cost. Or I guess depending on how you look at it, we'll replace some streets that otherwise might have gotten some resurfacing. So you'll see that number later in the year. Lenny, I'm not sure, is that out yet already? Or are you waiting on? It's out for bid right now. Out for bid right now, so we'll get that back probably in a few weeks, maybe by the next meeting. Okay. So that one, that project is pretty much winding down, just waiting to kind of get that resurfacing completed. I've also reported, give me a little bit of update about a meeting we had with the Wooten engineering firm last week. We got kind of the first preliminary look and some discussion about their study on the intake system at the water plant. Kicked a few things around there. They're not gonna, or they haven't given us their final report yet. But they gave us a little bit of input. We had some good discussions about some of the options that are out there. And I expect their final report by the middle of March. I don't know if the due date is the 15th or the 18th, but sometime in the middle of March, they're going to give us that final written report, which I will share with council as soon as we get it. And then we'll have some more meetings with Wooten and see where we stand with that fix. We're also looking outside, talking to some other just people in the industry to see if they have any ideas of how they've handled similar situations with some of the problems with sand on their intake system at a similar intake point in a river. So that's something to keep in mind. We're a ways from having a firm recommendation. We're hoping to have something by the end of this budget review this session so we can move forward during this next fiscal year. So I know Ken's working on that. Pete's done a good job on putting that together and handing that off to Ken so that he can dig in and kind of get some good recommendations before you there.
And I'm going to interrupt real quick. I've hired an engineering firm to do some work for me in Holly Springs, and the guy I was talking to him, he goes, "Oh yeah, I was a civil engineer for the city of Fayetteville for 10 years." And he handled water plants similar to ours, and he's going to bring the Fayetteville water plant operator himself come by on a Saturday and look the place over and see if they had any suggestions on it. But he's just an old country engineer. He may figure out a cheaper way. He knew exactly how much sand had packed up inside that thing and how often we were cleaning it out. So very familiar with it. So, and he's going to do it for free. Come on. I like that. All right, go ahead, Paul.
Just finishing up, we had another crossings meeting today with actually by phone conference because of the road conditions. But essentially, pretty much in the same position we've been in for a while, but the decision has been made. If you recall, there was the two contracts, the internal roads, industrial park roads, and the new roadways, and then the separate contract with the ramp and the Highway 70 portion. DOT is handling that ramp and the Highway 70 portion, as you know, and PLT was handling, as our contractor for us, the internal portions. PLT received a bid from DOT to also do that other portion, the ramp and Highway 70, so now PLT is doing both portions of that project. Because of the limits on the DOT portion of the contract, which they will not do any paving during the winter until at least March 15th, which is now essentially upon us. With the bad weather, PLT was not able to do kind of any interim paving on the interior portion of the project. So they're going to wait and try to get the best deal they can after March 15th and really do all of that final surfacing, post March 15th. Don't know what the weather will allow, but we're hoping by the middle part of April, they'll have some good weather and be able to finish all portions of that contract. So it looks like it'll all be done at the same time. They've still got a few punch list items to do. Some of the evening of the pavement, the first run of the pavement on the new road there, the widened part of the road on Industrial Park, that still remains. But pretty much they're pretty close until that final pavement right now, and only weather has slowed them down. So that project, again, been on hold for a little bit, but not for lack of trying, but just for lack of cooperation with the weather.
Paul?
Yes, sir.
Can I ask you a question in regards to that project? I know on several occasions we've mentioned there had not been power or water run to the roundabout. Is there any plan to do that, or has that been discussed yet?
Yes, sir. We've got that. In fact, we worked out the final approach for that today during that staff meeting. And basically, the electric department has got a regular contractor they use for kind of just your standard directional bore. There was a question whether we could use that size directional bore or whether we're going to have one separate for electric and one for water. And it looks like we can combine those. So one, we save money. We can do one bore. Rodney can run the lines together. He can pull the wire basically, and our water department can supply, I think it's going to be a 1-inch water line to give some water to that center, which we think will be more than enough. So we found a way to do it. It'll cost a little bit, but that will save us from having to do kind of two larger commercial directional bores there. So we're combining that, and we talked today. So both Steve and the water department and Rodney are off and running with that. So that'll meet and be ready to go.
Thank you.
I think we got that squared away. On the funding, I know Greg's been working on the funding with USDA, and again, Greg has been managed to go ahead and get some of the funding wrapped up with regard to what we've called the short-term loan. That check has been cut and has been received by the town. So now we're just waiting to wrap up really the what we call the longer-term loan, the USDA loan. Which is the long-term loan for the majority of the project. Still have some paperwork to submit on that, so we're still working our way through that, but it is on its way, and I think we will meet the requirement or have that done by the time the project is complete, hopefully sometime in April or early May. So that's on the way. So again, the end is in sight. Still a bit of paperwork to complete, but I think we're very, very close to that project. Also, just to give the council a heads up, Mr. Emler has spoken to several contacts with both DOT, the Postal Service, and 911 about really the timing of the quote name change taking effect. And it looks like if we can just really get a buy-in with the business owners, which I think we can do, it looks like we have a little bit of discretion. We have to give 60 days notice to 911 so they can send their letters out and get the word out. But then once that's done, they can flip the switch on the day, 60 days following the notice letters that go out to the property owners. They can do that, so we're well within time. We're shooting for a July 1 date. We can move it a little bit later if that's at the convenience of the business owners. We're trying to get some feedback there. And again, I know Sarah's going to help us out with that, and the chamber is going to help us out with that. But we hope to have that official change date either July 1 or possibly August 1 for the name change. So the signing with DOT's cooperation, it may actually say on the exit ramp from 95, it may go ahead and just say Outlet Center Drive on there, but they feel that that's not going to confuse anybody because that's where most of them are going. Instead of Industrial Park Drive, they'll be able to find it without too much trouble, even if it's not officially changed at that point. They feel like that'll be a good direction and that will work, and they seem satisfied that even if it's not officially changed, if they unbag that sign once the road is open, they felt comfortable with that. So it is starting to come together. Again, we're going to try to check with the actual business owners out there in the hotels, make sure that we're cooperating with them as well as possible to make it convenient, so they know that the change is coming soon, and we're going to try to work with them as far as an official date goes. And if we can help with, an extra 30 days here or there, we'll do what we can to do that. And Mayor, there's a few dates in the agenda packet. I think you saw the notice, the reset date for March 24th, which is the new date for the check presentation on the Crossings project. Congressman McIntyre will be there. It'll be held at the chamber at, I believe, 11 a.m. the morning of March 25th. So the congressman will be there to present the check, and we'll make sure we send everyone a reminder invitation to that event. But that is scheduled for just a couple of weeks.
The 24th or the 25th?
24th. 24th. What day was that? Monday. That's a Monday, the 24th. Mayor, unless there's some questions, that's all I have. Your RATA report is attached. Your monthly report is attached there in the packet. Also, there is one document that Mr. Embler provided, which I won't go into detail, but please take a look at that. It's about some possible funding, which we don't have to decide necessarily, really even in this budget cycle. I think it should be discussed, but it's some matching funding for some Greenway Trail funds. The match under this particular funding agency is 10%. But there is some very large amounts of funds that are available to help expand that trail. Obviously, that means the 10% amount goes up higher and higher for us, but there's a substantial amount of money that may be available to help move this project forward. And again, we can budget it if we're interested in doing it. We can budget it for, this year in part, or the upcoming budget year in part, the one after that, to split it and find a way to use those funds. But take a look at that memo that's attached, and we can provide you with some more detail at a later date. But I just want to get you thinking about that, because it may be a once in a several year opportunity to get some help from the state to help fund this greenway, which is never easy, never seems like it's affordable. But this may be one of those opportunities where it's a great opportunity for us. Mayor, that's all I have.
Thank you, City Manager Paul Savison. All right. I believe that's the last things on our meetings. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, before we adjourn, may I say one thing?
Sure.
I just wanted to, I know we met this gentleman at a budget session, but I just wanted to, should have done it earlier, and I apologize, to welcome Mr. Ken Griffin as our Utilities Director. I look forward to working with you, look forward to you serving the citizens of Smithfield well. So thank you.
I already do so. Thank you.
That's it, Mr.
I'll move to adjourn, Mayor.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?